Andrew Wood here. Today I'd like to talk to you about a topic that most people must not really understand, and that is budgeting, planning your marketing budget. Over the last few weeks, every week I put out a different PDF or a different video or some type of opt-in mechanism so that I generate ongoing leads for my ad agency. And over the last 6 weeks, I've had a tremendous response to the programs that I've put out. And one of the questions I ask in order to get the program is, what is your advertising budget and are you in charge of your advertising? And the budgets that are coming in are just astonishing to me. The majority of the people that I work with are in the golf business, where the average club is doing $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $5 million a year. And yet the figures that I'm seeing coming in for what they're spending on marketing is staggeringly low. $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, $7,000. These are multi-million-dollar businesses, in many cases spending 1/100% of their income on marketing, and yet expecting to drive revenue from memberships, from outings, from guest play, or whatever it is they use as revenue sources. But it's absolutely incredulous to me that anybody can think that they can grow their business with a marketing budget that's so tiny. Now, when I'm in seminars, I very often go around the room and ask people, business owners, what their marketing budgets are and what rationale they use for coming up with them. And the answers that I typically get are, the rationale is, well, that's about what everybody else spends, or that's what the industry average is according to the Chiropractic Journal or the Plastic Surgeon Journal or the Golf Business Magazine, and so we have a budget that is pretty much the same as we think everybody else's budget is. And then sometimes they just pick a number that's a percentage of gross, or sometimes they pick a number that they literally must throw darts to come up with, because in a room of people in the same industry, frequently the difference is, from $10,000 on the low end to $200,000 on the high end, yet they're all trying to achieve the same thing and they're all trying to reach the same customers. So it's really not a good way to do your marketing budget, and anybody who tells you that the industry averages mean anything is, completely wrong, because they don't. The only good way to come up with a marketing budget is to work your marketing budget backwards. That is to say, to set your goal for the amount of sales you want to make, set your goal for the amount of leads it will take and the closing ratio it will take to allow that goal to happen. So, I talk with people all the time. I talked with somebody last week who wants to increase his gross by $300,000, and yet is only spending $14,000 on marketing. By contrast, in 1988, 20-something years ago, my marketing budget in my 1,100 square foot karate school was $24,000. $24,000. Now, let's take a look at that, because there's some really good things to be learned by this. Anybody can open a karate school anywhere in the country, and even if you have no skill whatsoever, you'll get 50 students, because in any given area, there are 50 people that want to take karate. Likewise, you can open a private golf course almost anywhere. Even in today's economy, you can open a private golf course almost anywhere and relatively easily attract 200 members, because they'll be close to the club, or they'll like the course, or it'll be on their drive to work or on their drive home. And so any business has a set number of people that will show up if you do nothing. And then there's a set number of people that will be referred every month. And there's a set number of people that will leave and never come back, or die, or move away every month and every year. And so the first thing to look at when doing your budget is, how much of your budget can you achieve by actually doing nothing? Because there definitely are places and are times where you can do absolutely nothing and still know that you have a reasonable chance of meeting your financial goals. But if you're not in that luxurious situation, if you have to drive revenue, if you need more income, more members, more play, more buyers, now you've got to start looking at what you have to spend in order to make that happen. It really doesn't matter what you want to spend. It doesn't matter what number you have in your head. Marketing costs money and generating leads costs money. And depending on how much you want to grow your business, the more you want to grow your business, the more you have to spend. The faster you want to grow your business, the more you have to spend. And so if you figure that, let's say that 80% of the business you need is going to show up anyway. Now you're going to spend all of your marketing budget on generating that other 20% of the business plus maybe 5% growth or 10% growth. So your entire marketing budget is not spent on the 80% of the people that you know are going to show up anyway because they're on your email list or your Facebook page, or you're going to get a certain number of referrals every year, or a certain number of people are going to drive past your location every year and discover it. They're coming anyway. So you're spending your entire marketing budget on that 20% you need to reach and that 10% additional business that you want to get. So now you have to ask yourself, if you want to grow your business, let's take an example of selling a membership. If you have a membership, it doesn't really matter what kind of membership, karate membership, dance membership, gym membership, golf club membership, then if you want to say sign up 10 new members, what does it cost? You know, if we've already figured in that you're going to get in a certain amount of walk-ins and a certain amount of referrals, what does it physically cost to generate 10 more membership sales? Now, the first thing you have to know is, what is your closing ratio? In other words, if 10 people inquire about membership, how many of those people are actually, statistically, historically, going to join your club? So if your closing ratio is 1 in 10, you need 10 leads to sell 1 membership. Now, very few clubs have any real idea what their closing ratio is, but at most of the clubs I've been to, again, we're taking the business you were going to get anyway out of the picture. We're not talking about referrals and walk-ins. We're talking about going out and soliciting and finding that extra 20 or 30% that you need. So at most clubs, the closing ratio on memberships is far more likely to be 1 out of 15 than 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 5. So in order to sell a membership, you're probably going to need 15 leads, whether that be by the internet or by some type of marketing, in order to sell 1 membership. So if you need to sell 15 leads, if you need 15 leads to make 1 sale, that means you need 150 leads in order to make 10 sales based on that ratio. So the next question being is, what does it cost to generate a lead? And people have a very interesting idea of what it actually costs to generate a lead, but I've been doing this for 20 years and I can tell you that the cost of generating a lead doesn't vary that much whether you're a low-end business, a mid-range business, or a high-end business. Obviously, the higher you go, the more the leads cost because there's less people that can afford to do business with you. But generating a lead for a membership is going to cost you somewhere, depending on the media opportunities that you have, depending how big your database is, depending on a lot of factors, but somewhere between $50 and $200. And that's what's going to cost you no matter how much your membership is, whether your membership's $5,000 or $10,000 or $20,000, it really doesn't matter because the media cost doesn't change. You know, a newspaper ad costs what it does, a mailing costs what it does, a website or a viral marketing campaign costs what it does. And so that figure doesn't vary that much based on the price of your product. So whether you're selling a $50 golf lesson or a $500 golf lesson, or whether you're selling karate lessons or dance lessons, the cost of generating that lead really doesn't vary that much from business to business because the cost of media is relatively consistent from business to business. So let's just take the medium there and say that you want to get 10 new members and that you need to get 150 leads at $100 a lead. it's going to actually cost you $15,000 of marketing expense to generate 10 new members. Now, you don't have to like that, you don't have to believe it, but it's actually probably even a little better than reality, because when things are tougher and when people are scarcer, it probably actually goes up a lot closer to $200 a lead. So therefore, you're going to have to spend $30,000 to generate 10 new members based on a closing ratio of 1 in 15. Now, that's the reality. I mean, most people just don't want to actually deal with reality, but that is the reality of what it takes to sell a membership. Now, you could say, well, okay, if you have a really highly trained salesperson, if you have a really solid sales process where a lead comes in, it goes into a CRM like it does with our clients, it goes through a 7-step follow-up process. They are trained in how to handle the leads. They're trained in how to bond and rapport. They're trained in doing a very carefully structured membership tour. They're trained in countering objections and overcoming objections. They're trained in asking for the sale not once but multiple times. If you have somebody that's highly trained, maybe they can close 1 out of 10. Now again, remember, we're not talking about referrals and walk-ins and what you're going to get anyway. We're talking about these other less qualified people, the extra 20 or 30% that you need to do to grow your business. So even at 1 in 10, in order to get 10 new memberships, if you're closing 1 in 10, is going to mean you're going to spend, you're still going to spend at 1 in 10, a closing ratio, it's still going to be $200 a lead, which means, you're still going to have $20,000 in marketing spend to get 10 members on the high end, and maybe on the low end, you're going to spend $10,000. Now, let me give you a different example. Let's supposing that you're selling outings. It's much, much easier to close an outing sale than it is to close a membership sale, or it's much easier to close a wedding sale than it is to close a membership sale, because a membership sale doesn't have a specific date on it. I could join today, I could join tomorrow, I could join next week. But an outing, if I'm going to have a golf outing, I probably have a date in mind. If I'm going to have a wedding, probably have a date in mind. And so there's much more urgency to say yes. So how much does it cost to generate an outing lead or a wedding lead? Well, again, if you take the fact that historically you get 80% of them from your website or from your email or from repeat business. So we're going to take those out that you're going to get anyway and put them aside. And now we're going to look for that extra 20% that you don't get automatically, or that extra 30% to see some growth. Well, once again, the fact that we've switched from talking about memberships to talking about weddings, talking about karate lessons, talking about plastic surgery, doctors, lawyers, it doesn't really matter. Any type of professional service, you're going to spend between $50 and $200 to generate a lead. So in a difficult market, in an aggressive market, let's just say that you want to add 10 more outings. Well, if you're going to add 10 more outings, you're still going to spend probably somewhere between $100 and $200 to get a lead. And it's the same if you want to have 10 more weddings. It's going to cost you between $100 and $200 a lead. Now, the good news is that on an outing lead, you are much more likely to close 1 in 5. So 20% of the leads you get. So if you get 10 outing leads, you've spent $2,000 on the high end, $1,000 on the low end, and you're going to close 2 of those. So you're going to get back 2. Now, if you've got a good sales process, if you've got a good salesperson, you might be able to close 1 in 3 outings, or even 1 in 2 outings. You're always going to lose some because of conflicting dates, or the price is too high, or whatever. But if you can close 1 in 2 outings rather than 1 in 5 outings, obviously there's a massively different dynamic. But the cost of generating the lead is going to be relatively consistent. It's up to you to provide the sales training, which we do for our clients, and provide the structure so that you can monitor it, so that you know the answers to these questions next year. I mean, very, very, very rarely do I ask a club, hey, how many wedding leads did you get last year? Or how many membership leads? Or How many outing leads did you get? What's your closing ratio? I mean, 1 in 1,000 people can answer that question, but if you follow my process, you'll be able to do that instantaneously, and then you can work on improving the number of leads, the quality of leads, the process, and the closing ratio. Now you can talk about daily fee play, and once again, to generate a lead costs money. Now it doesn't cost as much money because you're only trying to generate a single daily fee player, but you're really not. You're trying to generate somebody that comes back again and again, and even on the low end, you are probably going to spend $50 to generate a new customer for a daily fee golf course. You got the 80% that know who you are that are coming anyway, but you're going to have to spend about $50 per player and perhaps more in order to generate a new customer. But what you've got to remember is we're not talking about a single green fee here. We're talking about somebody that comes back again and again. And it's very, very important that you understand the lifetime value of a client and not just the incremental sale of a green fee or a joining fee. You've got to look at the lifetime value of that client when you're doing your budgeting. So now you go back to your budgeting process and you say, okay, I want 20 new members, I want 10 new outings, I want 10 new weddings, or I want 1,000 new players. And if you use the math I'm giving you, you can see exactly what your marketing budget should be if you're in fact serious about generating growth. You cannot just look at the problem of how much business you want to generate and say, well, I'm only going to spend $10,000, or I'm only willing to spend $20,000, or my budget's 1% of last year's miserable takings. It just doesn't work. You have to work your budget backwards in a logical way where you set your goals for individual revenue sources. You figure out how many leads you need to get. You figure out your closing ratio. And then you build a strategic, integrated marketing plan around the tactics and strategies that you need to create the number of leads that you will need to drive the revenue you want to achieve. So back in the karate business, the example was alarmingly simple. I needed, in order to make $100,000 a year, which is what I was doing back in 1988, doing my karate thing in my little karate school, I had to get 40 leads a month. I usually got about 25 leads a month by accident, referrals, people passing through. And so I spent my $2,000 budget a month trying to find those other 10 to 15 people that I needed. You've got to do the same thing. If you realistically want to grow your business, you have to backward base your budget and you have to fund it. You cannot drive growth if you don't drive leads. And growth is an equation that looks like this. It's number of leads by conversion rate by transactional value. That's what you have to bear in mind when you're doing a budget. And I can tell you for a fact that in the golf business, it's extremely hard to move the needle if you're not willing to spend at the very least $30,000 a year, and $50,000 a year or $60,000 a year is far better. If you're not willing to spend $30,000 a year, then you simply can't have the programs in place that I have seen over the last 20 years that produce results. You've got to have some training in place. You've got to have a CRM in place, a customer relationship manager to monitor your leads. You've got to have some scripting. You've got to have a Facebook feed. You've got to have these different viral promotions. You need a highly competent website. You need an outbound email program. You might need some pay-per-click or some Google ads or some SEO. And maybe there's even a direct mail component or a print component. You cannot do all the things you need to do to significantly move the needle without spending $30,000 to $50,000 at a very minimum. And if you're a multi-course facility or a resort facility, the number goes up far, far, far higher. But you can move the needle if you're willing to make the commitment to your marketing and monitor your marketing and monitor your results carefully. It's very, very easy to take an extra $20,000 or $30,000 and turn that into $90,000 or $120,000 if you follow the formula that I have. But if you think you can just grow your business significantly without any type of thought about what it physically takes in terms of leads and traffic and conversion, then you're doomed to be very, very frustrated and probably not only not grow your business, but probably actually shrink your business in a competitive market like we have today. So if you'd like more information on how to budget correctly and how to use your budget in a way that is guaranteed to move the needle forward rather than just tread water or go backwards, give me a call, 352-266-2099, or visit our website at legendarymarketing.com.